Many open-world RPG-like games nowadays will advertise as something that strikes a balance between player skill and character skill.
Daggerfall then brings, the first one I helped on, the character yourself to get a lot more depth. That's the one that adds the skill system and changes the whole paradigm from XP to, you will get better at what you do as you do it.
But in many cases, this blurred line isn't really all that apparent in the actual game. From the moment you begin playing the game, you might find a weapon type that you like and usually stick with it, occasionally trying another. In a game like Skyrim, you can pick up a sword from the beginning and use it for hours, and then switch over to a mace and you'll use the exact same strategies, even though these weapons are not the same. Whereas in a game like Bloodborne, each weapon type is unique with its own set of moves and damage that can be dealt. Players will carefully decide which weapon works best for them and then practice that weapon until they level up their character to deal some massive damage. Along the way, the player will also learn how to use the weapon and how to strategically play with it. And the difference between these two types of experiences is pretty black and white. One game asks you to play for fun and caters more towards casual audiences, while the other game demands you put time and effort into learning how to play before taking on even the simplest of challenges. And while both games have their ups and downs, clearly one game asks more of the player without complicating the gameplay itself. Bloodborne is easy to learn, attacking, dodging, and healing, but hard to master. You have to know when to attack and when to retreat. When should you play aggressive, and when should you carefully maneuver around before striking? As far as combat goes, Absolver is one of the most dynamic games I've ever played. In Absolver, players can actually create their own movesets, which can lead into their own styles. Every player starts off choosing what kind of fighter they want to be, and then they have a few moves to try out. From there, they'll learn new moves to add to their arsenal. Absolver takes the difficulty in learning and understanding your fighting strategies, but then adds depth by letting players decide what move they can make in each sequence. It encourages an adventurous mindset for players to explore and try new things with their combat. Which moves work in which sequence? What speed and damage should each move have in a way that makes sense? How many moves can you fit into a string before you run out of stamina? Some players will want to use heavy, slow attacks that can deal a lot of damage but might be predictable. Others will want to use fast, light attacks that can chip away at an enemy's health bar. And others, like myself, will use a mixture of the two. After you've created the moveset that you enjoy, you can put it to the test against NPCs in the game or other players online. Fighting other characters in the game is vital because it can not only inspire your own fighting style, but also even let your character learn new moves, but only if you win. Players are encouraged to fight, and in a game all about fighting, that's a good thing. The combat in this game is very layered. Beyond creating your own moveset that will be different from just about every other player you come across, you also have other weapons, skills, blocking, parrying, dodging, and the ability to fake your moves. Other weapons are either a sword or some gauntlets, at least for my type of character. Skills include the ability to heal yourself, increase defense, use a shockwave to push back enemies, and so on and so forth. In order to use a weapon or skill, you must build up the energy through your shards, those tiny little light bulbs floating behind your character. Blocking will absorb damage from incoming attacks, but also depletes your stamina. Enemies can perform moves to break through your block, and can also flank you if you're facing more than one of them. Parrying is a timed move that is tricky to get right. If you do happen to get it right, you'll have a moment to land an attack on your enemy. It's about half a second, so it won't be enough to get in a heavy hit unless you're lucky. If you mess up a parry, expect a few punches and kicks to the face. You could always try dodging too. And finally, you have the ability to fake moves. This is used to get your opponent to parry incorrectly so that you can move in and attack. It can be difficult to use efficiently, and its success also depends on the reaction of your enemy. It's a nice addition to the combat that I have yet to really start mastering, but I've been able to successfully use it once or twice. So, as you can see, there are a lot of options with the combat in Absolver. I mean, a lot. There's more too, like how that little dial on the bottom of the screen will determine the next move you make. Certain moves are made in certain stances, so you have to take that into account depending on what sort of attack you want to use. It'll move automatically and cycle through movesets in a natural way, but can also be manipulated manually. Wow, now that's a lot. In the game, you'll level up your character. You meditate in order to apply points to different skills, but you also learn new moves and acquire new equipment. And because of the insane difficulty that the game can offer depending on whatever player or NPC you fight, you will also have to hone your skills and use strategies that you hand build yourself. The game strikes an amazing balance between that blurred line from earlier. Because in Absolver, player skill and character skill work hand in hand to make the most unique and diverse combat system I've ever seen in a game. It makes you feel like you're actually getting better at combat, learning how to properly parry and fake moves, while also modifying your moves so that you can become the best you possibly can. It took me quite a bit of trial and error to figure out how I wanted to fight in the game. And sometimes the strategies have to be switched up. Some bosses have required me to change my equipment and play either more aggressively or defensively. It varies from fight to fight, allowing players to try new things and see what works best. There's no doubt in my mind that, like Dark Souls, in due time many gamers and reviewers will be relating future games to Absolver. This combat system is one that I would love to see in more titles and expanded upon even more. Thank you for watching this video. I plan on making a full-length critique of this game after I've spent many more hours with it. It's a game that I want to devote a lot of time to and learn as much as I can. And there's more to the game too. I haven't even touched on its open world, boss fights, weapons, music, art style, or world design. There's so much to like about this game. That being said, it's also one of the most frustrating games I've ever played, simply because it asked more of me than any game I've ever played before. But anyways, I'm saving all of that for a future video. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.